folks, welcome to this week's Self-Love podcast. I am Polly, and if you haven't tuned into this podcast before, it's just basically the ramblings of a mad woman talking about self-love. So if that's your thing, please join in, and thank you for being here. So self-love, it's not what it's always made out to be, right? We see these cheesy Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok quotes, where we're talking about self-love being things like a bubble bath or glittery bath bombs or painting our nails or wearing a little unicorn head all dressed in neon colours, right? And good vibes only sorts of quotes. This is not self-love. This is just fluff. Real self-love is essentially, I like to put it into this little bracket, real self-love means that you feel safe being yourself, 100% yourself. So really it's about releasing anything that doesn't suit you, doesn't serve you, that isn't you, it doesn't resonate with your heart. And real self-love is about being yourself and being comfortable being yourself. This is what I would personally describe self-love as. So in these podcasts we talk about self-love, tips around how to integrate being more self-compassionate, accepting of oneself in daily life, and practices that you can do to bring yourself back home to yourself so you can feel confident in your own skin, feel confident being you. We do live in a world that has tried to play on our insecurities, specifically as women, and has taken us quite far away from ourselves, and it's distracted us and made us a little bit disjointed to our actual centre, to our wholesomeness, to the unconditional love that is there waiting for us. Instead, we go down this path of chasing that self-love from somebody else or from a product we could buy in the stores, or trying to chase a certain look, for example, or change ourselves, or anything that's external from us. We've gone down this road because we've been marketed towards that road of distraction, to essentially try and find something that's going to make us feel better. It's a little bit of a plaster on a wound. And these podcasts are very much about, getting to the nitty-gritty of what real self-love is, because it's not always pretty, it's not always a plaster, it's not about buying something, and it's not about gaining something. It's about peeling off all of the onion layers that are basically loads of suits that don't actually fit us, suits that aren't ours, and revealing, I hate this cheesy quote, but I'm going to say it anyway, the true authentic us. Okay, that was a very typical quote of our times, but hey ho, I've said it now. You can't take things back, unfortunately. They're out into the big wide world. So if you're new to this podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. That is what we're talking about, uncovering realness and allowing ourselves to feel safe in that realness. So this specific podcast is about transmuting the pain body. I'm going to get straight into it. So transmuting the pain body is something that I work on a lot. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of the pain body or not, but essentially the pain body is an energy field that gets temporarily lodged inside of our inner body, and the energy no longer flows because of this stuckness that's happened in that energy field. Okay, now the pain body is an accumulation of negativity, trauma from the past, events that have happened to us, possibly memory, nervous tension, stress, all of that sort of past narrative that we often haven't dealt with. Possibly, I'm going to say the word, maybe haven't healed, in a sense of letting go of. Instead, we've accumulated it. The word is accumulated here. So the energy, the pain body rather, is this energy field that gets stuck inside of us that prevents this circulation of energy inside of the body. And this is where we hold on to a very specific identity of destruction in some sort of way. So I want to talk about how we can start to transmute this destruction, how we can start to look at the pain body with a little bit of space in between us, presence, consciousness, unconditional love, and these sort of narratives and layers that we accumulate throughout our lives. And how can we start to find some space in between those layers? Because essentially this pain body, when we attach ourselves to it, this energy field, this stuckness, when we give ourselves an identity out of that pain body, I am this because of my past. I feel this way because of what happened to me back then. I have these thoughts, I have these emotions, I can't deal with them because I am this person, because that happened. So really the pain body is an accumulation of stories and layers, very much from the past, because there can't be from anywhere else really, can there? Because the presence, there's no such thing as the pain body. Presence is all about energy flow and contentment really. The future, there's no such thing as it. We always make up all these big presumptions about the future as if we're going to experience it, and actually it's not promised to any of us at all. So lucky will we be, let's say, if that comes about for us. But yeah, so the pain body is essentially the past, because there's no such thing as the future. It can't be present because presence is content, it's peaceful. It can only be the past. So when we think about the pain body, this stuck energy inside of the body, that sometimes we might think about this relating to, the chakras or something like that. The energy centers inside of the body that hold these different sort of repressed emotions and pains and traumas and suppressed feelings, I suppose, that we have not managed to feel because we've not been able to at that time. It was too painful, or it was too hard for us to feel it, or we were told it was shameful, or something out in our culture or our society, or the way in which we've even been brought up in school, education, through our childhood, parenting, whatever it is, social circles, whatever conditioning field, we might have been told to suppress that thing, that it's not welcome in the environment that we're living in. And, as children, or, as growing adults, and having belief systems and patterns of behaviour that just start to repeat over time, we eventually start to hide those emotions that we don't feel worthy of expressing. Or we don't want to feel our feelings because they're too challenging to feel, or we've been told that feeling is, a negative feeling, and we only want to grasp onto the positive feelings, for example. So all of these things, even thoughts, unwanted thoughts that we think, I shouldn't be thinking that thought, it gets stuck, doesn't it, in the body then, because we don't feel this, that we can express it freely, right? Same with words, wording, and self-expression. If we can't express that freely, it gets stuck. It becomes a layer of trapped energy in the body. So all of these things might reside in different sort of areas of the body, And when they start to come to the surface, of which they must, sometimes they come out spontaneously, sometimes we might be triggered in real life, whatever that's meant to mean, by other people or situations or events that we're in. We may feel triggered and our pain body will want to react, and we don't have much space in between the pain body because we think we are it, because our ego's made an identity that we are this pain body, we are this accumulation of stories that we've held so tightly inside of our physical body, or our inner body rather, our energy body. And when these things aren't dealt with, I like to say, feel, deal, heal. So we need to feel this emotion or feeling, or bring it closer to us for a moment, not in a cognitive way, not trying to analyze it and really dig into the roots of it, because roots have roots, I can tell you that for sure. And where our attention goes, our energy flows as well. So if our attention goes to the past, again, the ego is very tricky. It's going to start to want to make an identity out of that. So instead, how can we feel the emotion, feel the pain, which we don't like doing, so that we can deal with it, and then we can heal it, surrender it, let it go, instead of storing it, okay? So a little example of the pain body might be something, or an analogy if you like, when we have a spring clean in our house, right? We dust everything down, we get rid of all the old rubbish that we've just been hiding in our, bits, drawers, and we have probably, I have bags full of things that for some reason I've hoarded, like pieces of paper that I've scribbled on, and old phones that I've had for 100 years that are just hidden in the corner because I couldn't be bothered to do anything with them. But essentially, we have this spring clean. We feel like we're getting weighed down by clutter. And we go, right, enough is enough, I need a spring clean. So we get rid of all the stuff in the house, and guess what we feel? We feel lighter. The word is lighter, right? And so the pain body, when we've accumulated all of that narrative and repressed emotion from the past, it makes us heavier, essentially. And energy needs to move. It needs to move like water. If it doesn't move like water and it doesn't circulate in the body, it becomes dense and heavy. And that's when we have these emotional disturbances. We can't quite find ourselves being balanced. That's when we have these this sort of like mental chaos. We can't still the mind. We feel in turmoil in the mind. That's when we have these sort of like feelings of disconnect from our body, because essentially our inner body, it likes to feel free and the energy likes to move. And if it doesn't, because we are associated very deeply and we've created an identity out of the pain body from the past, we're making ourselves very dense, very hard, very rigid. And this stops us from moving forward in our life. So when we think about growth, personal growth or spiritual growth, just moving forward in whatever it is you want to do in your life, whether it's business, work, self-development, whatever it is, people often think about that as, how can I get more? How can I get more courses? How can I have more qualifications? How can I get more? I don't know, more. How can I get more things? How can I be better? When the reality of things is we already are whole and we already have everything that we need. It's the pain body that's holding us back from moving forward. So if you were to think about a hot air balloon, or maybe that has some weights at the bottom of it, the hot air balloon's not thinking, oh, how do I get to the sky to try and accomplish my mission? It's just thinking, how can I get rid of these weights so that I can move upwards right? Now, thinking about the pain body in that way, instead of thinking, how can I gain more? Maybe thinking about how can I release the heaviness that is holding me back. Because once that heaviness starts to be released and we find space in between the pain body and our own sort of like true energy and our presence, then we move forward naturally. Okay, so it's more about surrender than it is about push. And people don't like the word surrender, right? Because we associate it with being lazy or being complacent or giving up. When essentially surrendering is about letting go of that which is holding us back from moving forward and growing. So a couple of little tips as to how to, this is specifically going to be a couple of tips for women here, but men, again, can benefit from this, but there's going to be one specific one for women. How can we start to work with letting go of some of the, or watching or finding space some of the heaviness that we've created in that energy field of the pain body? How can we do this in daily life? How can we make it practical instead of it just being some sort of theory? How can we feel it? How can we work with it? So this little tip is just for women. Women at the time of the menstrual cycle, specifically just about a week before just after ovulation, and then working into a week before our cycle, our pain body becomes extremely active in those times, as you'll probably recognize. So when the pain body becomes active in those times, this is a really, really important time to connect back to you. When we don't connect back to us in that time, the pain body is going to take over our presence. Now, the pain body cannot survive in our presence. When we are continuously coming back to our center and back to the present moment, which is easier said than done, then we are cutting cords with that pain body and we are getting our energy to circulate again. A really potent time for us to do this, because we have got the ability to transmute the pain body into creativity and inspiration at the time of the week before our period and during the period when we're going through these shifts, right? This is a time for us to calm down. It's not a time for us to, go with that really masculine energy. It's a time for us to use our feminine energy, slow down, go against the grain of what society always tells us to do, which is push, 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 work, be rigid, do things objectively, work towards goals. This is not a time for that. And when we do that, we're going against our true nature. And when we go against our true nature, our true energy, we start to feel this discomfort, this rigidity, and it adds to layers of the rigidity in the pain body. So coming back to really honouring yourself and giving yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes where you are silent with yourself in that day. You might sit in meditation, you might lie down. Whatever it is, be still and connect to the breath. It sounds simple, I say it all the time, but the breath is our most powerful tool that we can possibly use, okay? In Kundalini Yoga, the first thing we're thinking about doing to work with energy, because that's what Kundalini Yoga works with, in this practice, the first thing we're thinking about is the breath, because without the breath, we cannot connect to our center. The breath is our anchor to everything. Specifically before the period, connect to the breath in stillness. And have a moment once you've connected to that more neutral meditative space. Start with 5 minutes, move it on to 10, maybe 15 if you feel that it's working for you. Once you've found that stillness, and only once you've found that stillness, you can find space between the pain body and your presence. if you haven't found that stillness from the breath and from your presence, you won't be able to find space between the pain body and you, because you'll just be too tied up in it. Okay, it's too dense, it's too heavy. You need to find the lightness. There is a little bit of space between that pain body, the past, the energy field that's stuck inside of our inner body, and you. And the reason that these two things are separate is because you, the true essence of you, is in the presence. Yeah, the only place that life actually exists, in the presence. When you become present, the past can't survive in your presence. This takes practice, right? And you'll keep coming in and out of it all day long because that's normal. Yeah, but there comes to a point where actually the more you practice it, the more you can switch that pain body off, because you go, right, I can feel I'm going into the pain body, connect to presence. It might even just take you a couple of breaths, and then you can go, okay, I see that that's my past narrative. How can I come back here? So that's a little tip. Make sure you sit and breathe with yourself and slow down before your period, during your period, if you are a woman, because you are more connected to the pain body, then you're going to try and form an identity out of it. And you can catch it very quickly if you tune into your breath. Okay, so 2 more things that you can do to start to work with allowing that energy field to not overtake your life, basically. So becoming very, very taking the observer's perspective of your thoughts. So whenever you are attached to the thoughts that you're having, you know, the mind is just on a loop. It's on a loop all of the time, looping the same things, you know, over and over again. It's very obsessive, compulsive actually. To break that obsessive compulsive repetition, because essentially it is a repetition. I mean, if you were just sit and listen to your thoughts for a while, you'll notice that they are just a conveyor belt of the same sorts of thoughts that are, you know, attached to these past narratives that we've sort of made an identity out of again. That are playing around in the head. You know, I'm not good enough at this, I'm not good enough at that, this is not my skill, this is my skill, I don't like this emotion, I do like that emotion. We've just got this like accumulation, these layers that we've gone, this is what I am, and this is what I am not, and this is my pain, and this is my struggles, and you know, it's very negative in this mind as well. And when we let that run ragged, you'll notice that they are just very repetitive thoughts that are just like computerized from this past train of thought. And so we might even listen to them for a moment, notice how repetitive they are, and then we need to do something to change that state. We need to do something to stop the repetition. Now, I call these change your state or an icebreaker. This is such a simple tool, but I use it all the time. If I sit and listen to my thoughts, or I might be doing this unconsciously, or I might do it just as a little awareness exercise consciously, and then I'll become aware that I am listening to my thoughts consciously or unconsciously, and if they are then starting to take me down a rabbit hole of destruction, overthinking, rumination, where I'm really not present at all, I'm completely distracted into a totally different realm, which is really taking me away from myself. When you notice that and you become aware of that, you've become conscious in that moment. And a very good thing to do once you become conscious in that moment is to break the ice. And I sometimes do this by simply clapping my hands and I go, stop. And it's a simple thing to do, but what that does is it goes, okay, I've been going down a train of thought. I recognise that it was unconscious and unhelpful. How can I change my state? How can I see CYS and move forward from that state? Okay, get up, do something differently. Change the thing that you're doing. shake the body, do something that allows you to shift from this unconscious train of thought to this very conscious newness that you're going into. This stop is basically going, that is the end of that pattern. I'm going to move into a new pattern. And you might find yourself having to do that time and time again throughout your day until you can do it quite effectively without having to clap everywhere. Okay. And then finally, I want to add one last tip that you can use. Start to look at working with feeling, dealing and healing your emotions and feelings. Feelings, emotions, they're just little passing visitors that come and say hello, and then they release, and come and say hello, and then they release. If we let them be little passing visitors, then they're going to just release, and then they'll come back, and then they'll release, and then they'll, you'll experience all of the variety of human emotions, but they won't feel like they're attacking you in any way. You won't feel attached to them because you've recognized them as little visitors. Yeah? What happens because we've accumulated this pain body, this stuck energy field, is we've repressed emotions that we might feel are bad, or we haven't been allowed to use them, whatever that is, right, in the past. So when we don't feel our emotion and allow ourselves to experience the emotion and feel that it's okay to have that emotion, let's take anger for example, yeah, very normal human emotion that we have been led to believe, wrongly led to believe that it's a bad emotion. So when we think that it's a bad emotion, we don't want to feel it, so we swallow it up and we hide it in our pain body. And instead, what we need to do is we need to start to feel that emotion when it comes up and go, oh, hello, little anger visitor. I accept you. You're okay. You're a normal emotion and I'm going to feel it. Actually bring it closer. Sounds a strange thing to say. Bring it closer and feel it. And when you feel it, it almost allows you to become extremely present with that feeling. Instead of suppressing it and making it become part of this past hard energy, feel the emotion and allow it to just, as you feel it, it'll start to just pass through you because you've accepted the feeling. Anything you accept releases. Whatever you resist persists, okay? So we're not trying to bat it away, we're trying to feel it. Even if it means you want to, pat on the floor or make a little yelp out of your mouth, go for it. Express the emotion in a safe space. And then once you've felt the emotion, then you can start to deal with it. You can't deal with anything if it's unconscious and it's in layers of stuck energy from your past. You can only deal with it when it's sort of like you've felt it and you've brought it to the surface. And to deal with it, we can start to, feel for where this might be coming from. It might be an explorative journey in the body. So it might be that you feel that certain areas of the body tensing up when it comes. And you might even get some very intuitive words that might even come with that. And without having to attach yourself to those words and go back into the pain body and think, oh, I'm a victim because of this. How can we just watch them and release them with a little bit of ease, okay? So how can we think, right, okay, something's coming up here, that's fine. Maybe even I want to write this down to take it out of the energy field, or express it verbally in that safe space, to take it out of the energy field, or even doing a little bit of movement with the breath, dancing, Kundalini yoga, some stretches, some organic movement to release this out of the body, and start to then feel for surrendering that emotion. And we need to do this time and time again, okay? But essentially, when we start to feel it, we bring it to the surface, it can be uncomfortable, and it can be uncomfortable for a couple of days, and it can sometimes be uncomfortable for a couple of weeks. But I'm telling you something, it's much more uncomfortable living with a dense pain body that is attacking you daily and you can't move forward in your life than it is to actually sit with an emotion that is very, very normal for a human to feel, and then to release it time and time and time and time again. So bringing the unconscious conscious without forming an identity and attachment out of it, releasing it and softening it, and allowing your presence to rise above your past is how we're going to start to transmute the pain body. Okay, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time, and thank you for your support. Have a wonderful day. Ciao. Hi guys, thanks for watching that video with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it means the world to me. If you would like to watch any more videos, there's 2 here just for you.